Hey Dragons, it's December 19th, the 19th day in our countdown, so let's jump right in and see which book we'll be reading tonight. Can you help me find number 19? Oh, there we go. All right. So it looks like tonight, we'll be reading The Incredibles 2. Wasn't that long ago we read The Incredibles, so hopefully you remember that one. If not, you can check back a couple days ago. Let's jump right in. Okay, The Incredibles 2. One day in Munchenberg, a supervillain called the Underminer was using his tunneler to steal money from all the banks. Luckily, the Incredibles were close behind him. With his family's help, Mr. Incredible was able to stop the giant machine by pulling the boiler loose. The machine grinded to a halt just inches from City Hall. Unfortunately, despite saving the city, the Incredibles weren't able to catch the Underminer. The villain had got away in an escape pod. The Incredibles were blamed for the damage to the city and reminded that supers were illegal. Back at the motel, the family were discussing their future as supers. Helen reminded everyone that the law is the law and they had to stick to it. However, later that night, Lucius Best, also known as Frozone, informed the family that a business tycoon wanted to make supers legal and needed their help. That same night, Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone arrived at a massive company called DevTech, which was owned by Winston DeVore and his sister Evelyn. Winston blamed the death of their parents on the absence of supers. He wanted the public to see the supers in action. Techie Evelyn showed them a small camera for their super suits that would record their heroic acts. It was then announced that the first mission would go to Elastigirl. Back at the motel, Helen was reluctant to accept the job, but with her husband's support, she accepted Winston's offer. The next day, the Parrs were taken to their lavish new home. Helen found a brand new supersuit and an all-electric elasticycle left for her by Winston and Evelyn. "You'll be great," said Bob to his wife as she jumped on her new bike. "I will be great, and so will you," replied Helen before zooming off to the airport where the Devores were waiting for her. At the airport, Winston explained Elastigirl's first mission would take them to the city of New Urban. The following morning, Bob explained to Violet and Dash that their mom had left for a new job. This didn't make sense to Violet. "So, Mom is going out illegally to explain why she shouldn't be illegal?" Bob wasn't sure how to answer, but luckily for him, the school bus arrived. Meanwhile, in New Urban, Elastigirl was trying to stop a runaway hover train. Driving as fast as she could through tunnels and across roofs on the Elasticycle, Elastigirl finally caught up with the train. She grabbed the carriage and stretched into a giant parachute to slow the train down. It stopped just seconds from disaster. Elastigirl was checking all the passengers were okay when she noticed a message appear on the train's control panel. It said, "Welcome back, Elastigirl, the screenslaver." Back at home, Bob started to read a bedtime story to Jack Jack, but the baby dozed off. It didn't take long for Bob to fall asleep, too. A short while later, Jack Jack woke up to a noise outside. Looking out of the door, he spotted a raccoon stealing food from the trash can. The baby ran towards the glass door and passed straight through it. Jack Jack had superpowers like the rest of his family. Determined to stop the furry criminal, the super baby burst into flames and chased the startled raccoon across the yard. Suddenly, a loud crash woke Bob, and he saw Jack Jack firing laser beams from his eyes toward the terrified animal. It was chaos, and when Bob tried to intervene, Jack Jack multiplied into 5 babies. "You have powers!" shouted Bob. "Yeah, baby!" But his excitement quickly vanished. If his youngest son had multiple powers, Bob had a big problem. Meanwhile, Elastigirl was being interviewed about her train rescue. Suddenly, a hypnotic pattern appeared on every screen. The host, Chad Brentley, said in a robotic voice, "Screens are everywhere. We are controlled by screens, and screens are controlled by me, the Screenslaver." The Screenslaver then threatened to crash the ambassador's helicopter, so Elastigirl sprung into action. Spotting the helicopter flying above the city, Elastigirl leaped inside it and found the pilots in a trance. She quickly smashed the screens to break the hypnosis and then rescued the ambassador and everyone aboard just as the chopper flew out of control. Elastigirl has saved the day once again. Later, with the help of Evelyn, Elastigirl set up a signal tracker that led her to an apartment filled with hypnotizing equipment. Suddenly, the Screenslaver attacked. Elastigirl chased him onto the rooftop, where he jumped. She quickly transformed into a parachute and caught the enemy midair. However, when they landed and she unmasked the villain, it was a confused young man who insisted he was innocent. Back at home, Bob had learned the Incredimobile, his old supercar, was in the hands of a wealthy car collector. He rummaged through some boxes to find the car's remote control. Dash snatched the controller from his dad's hands. Suddenly, Violet screamed as Jack Jack, who had transformed into a monster, chased her down the stairs. Violet and Dash were furious at Bob for not telling them about their brother's powers. The following day, leaders and supers gathered in the DevTech penthouse to prepare for a summit on Winston's yacht. Elastigirl and Evelyn were in the editing room examining the footage of the Screenslaver's lair from her suit cameras. Something didn't feel right. "All the Screenslaver needs to do is hypnotize someone, is get a screen in front of their eyes," she realized. "But what if the screen doesn't look like a screen?" Elastigirl picked up the goggles and looked at them closely. Small screens were built into the lenses. Suddenly, Evelyn forced the goggles onto Elastigirl, and bright hypnotic lights flashed. Elastigirl was in a trance. Elastigirl woke a while later and found herself in a freezing room. If she tried to stretch, she would surely break. "So you're the Screenslaver," said Elastigirl to Evelyn, who was glaring at her from the other side of a glass wall. "Are you going to kill me?" Evelyn smirked cruelly. "Nah, using you is better. You're going to help me make supers illegal forever." With that, she placed Elastigirl back under hypnosis. Back at the Pars family home, the phone rang. It was Evelyn. "Elastigirl's in trouble," she said. "Meet me on the ship." Bob quickly called Lucius to watch the kids while he went to save his wife. After Bob left, 6 hypnotized supers attacked the kids. Frozone soon arrived to protect them. As the fight continued, the Incredimobile suddenly burst into the living room. Dash had summoned it using the remote control. The kids escaped in the vehicle just as the supers put a pair of hypno goggles over Frozone's eyes. Having no idea what was happening back at his house, Mr. Incredible met Evelyn at the DevTech yacht, eager to find his wife. As Evelyn led him to the ballroom, Elastigirl suddenly appeared and pounced on her husband. He tried to dodge her attacks, but she was too fast. "Helen!" he cried, confused. "It's me!" Elastigirl ignored him and slid a pair of hypno goggles over Mr. Incredible's eyes. He fell silent and still. On his ship, Winston welcomed his guests and declared the signing ceremony was about to begin. However, during a group photo, Evelyn hypnotized everyone and ordered the supers to speed up the yacht and destroy the controls. The ship was on a course to crash into the city. The kids knew their parents were in trouble, so they used the Incredibile to get to the DevTech yacht as quickly as possible. By the time they arrived, the ship had already left. But the Incredibile wasn't just any old car. "Follow that boat," said Dash to the vehicle. The car suddenly sped off the pier, landed with a splash in the water, and sailed towards the ship. They then boarded the yacht and burst into the conference room. Jack removed Elastigirl's goggles, who then quickly snatched Mr. Incredible's and Frozone's off too. Evelyn was watching from the control room and ordered the hypnotized supers to attack, but one by one, the Incredibles and Frozone removed the supers' hypno goggles. Before long, everyone was released from Evelyn's control. The supers needed to turn the yacht to stop it crashing into the city. Mr. Incredible had to get to the rudder. He tied himself to the anchor and went underwater. Using all his strength, he moved the rudder and the ship began to turn. Meanwhile, Evelyn tried to escape in a jet, but Elastigirl entered the cockpit just as the plane took off. As the jet flew higher and higher, Elastigirl was struggling to breathe. She grabbed a flare gun and shot it at Evelyn's oxygen tank, which ruptured and hurled the villain through the windshield. Elastigirl jumped after her, and before they hit the ocean below, Void, one of the supers, created a portal that allowed them to land on the deck of the yacht just before it came to a grinding halt in front of the city. Finally, the real Screenslaver was arrested and the city was saved. The public were very grateful to the supers, and once again, they were recognized as heroes. A judge thanked them for their extraordinary service and restored their legal status. Driving along in the Incrediwagon, the Incredibles were ready to take on anything that came their way, and they would do so together as a family. The end. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's book, and tune in for the next couple of days. Only a couple left.